Delhi! Arizona has just picked up a massive win against Houston, 73-66, and they honestly gave the Cougs a taste of their own medicine. It was all about the defense, in my opinion, tonight for Arizona, and it's one of the lowest scoring outputs we've seen from Houston the entire season. We're going to get into Delhi, we're going to talk Jaden Bradley, and we're going to talk defensively, and let's break down the stats of what we saw tonight in this massive clash in the top 5 between Houston and Arizona. Defensively, Arizona 9 steals tonight, 12 Houston turnovers to Arizona's 4, and off those 12 turnovers, Arizona turned that into 16 points tonight, and they held Houston to 36% from the field. Again, one of their lowest outputs of the season. And then let's talk about points in the paint. Arizona outscoring Houston in the paint 38-20. And even with Arizona picking up the win, they left 11 points at the free throw line. And again, this just goes back to what we've been saying, that this Arizona team was not in a crisis. They were still one of the best teams in the country. They're still my pick to win the national championship. And let's get into Delhi and Bradley now. Delhi has had his season high in back-to-back games now at 22 points, and tonight he did it on 8 of 14 from the field. And we talked about this months ago that we knew there were going to be games that Delhi, not that he won this single-handedly, but he was a type of player that has the type of firepower to win you massive games, and that's exactly what they did. Specifically more tonight, the BYU game was a big game just again to get back on the right track, but this was really the bread and butter, and Delhi giving 22 points tonight, timely buckets. They really came with a flurry in the first half that just kept that Houston crowd in check. And here's my thing with Jaden Bradley. If you saw our last game when we were talking about Arizona potentially being in crisis mode after those 2 back-to-back losses, I said that Jaden Bradley just didn't look like himself. He looked fatigued. He looked sick. He looked like someone that was playing through an illness rather than someone playing through an injury or something else. I never saw any reports about it. I didn't see any comments from Tommy Lloyd after any of the games about Jaden Bradley or his health. But you could just tell he wasn't that type of guy offensively and defensively. And he's looked so much better in these last 2 games, specifically tonight, even though it wasn't the most efficient. He did finish the game with 17 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and 1 turnover. And again, that deadly mid-range that he has, those little stop and pop shots where he would get the defense going, blow by him, spin back to that mid-range. That was the Jaden Bradley we've seen all season long for this Arizona team. And that was the Jaden Bradley that Arizona didn't have in that game against Kansas and in that game against Texas Tech. And so him being that type of level point guard, Delhi showing his teeth and how good he can be offensively, even without Koa Pete, this Arizona team has proven that we can go into one of the most difficult environments in college basketball and win a basketball game against a really good Houston team. And not only did they do it, they almost brought the game, not even almost, they did. They brought the game to Houston on the defensive side. The passing lanes, the steals, the deflections, Kurchenkov, Burry, Bradley, Dell'orso, they all were fantastic. And I think Awaka had a really good first half, kind of slow there in the second, but another really good showing by him specifically in that first half. Arizona has everything they need to win a national championship. We've said it from the beginning. It's been my pick back in November. And that brings me to our final point here. Fran Fraschilla made a comment in the broadcast today on ABC, ESPN, whatever, saying that we know Arizona wants to win the Big 12 and the fans want to win all the regular season games. But he said this Arizona team season doesn't start till March 19th. And I'm curious what your guys' thoughts as Arizona fans or as just fans of college basketball in general. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I do think there's as someone who's been a player, been a coach, you want to win the conference. You want to win everything you possibly can throughout the season, and you don't want to lose any games. Now, at the beginning of the season, if I told Arizona fans, hey, you'd have 2 losses going into the final week of February, everybody signs up for that, obviously, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But even in those games, you're just like, bro, we shouldn't have lost to Kansas. If I'm being honest about Arizona, you probably feel like you shouldn't have lost to Kansas. And you were right there with Texas Tech, and credit to Texas Tech and Kansas for pulling those wins. They're great teams. This Arizona team wants to be undefeated. They want to win the Big 12 regular season. They're going to want to win the Big 12 championship. And all that does is just put you in an even better advantageous situation to win March Madness. They were a team, I think the top 16 rankings came out today for March Madness. And I want to say they were either the 4th ranked team or they were outside the top 4 and off the 1 line. I can't remember specifically. Get in the comments and double check me on that. This Arizona team, to me, has been the most consistent. They have great depth. They have great defense. They have great scoring. They don't have these lapses really like we've seen out of some teams like Michigan. They don't have a glaring hole like the post presence issue for Duke. I still think that this Arizona team is the best team in the country. They're going to be my pick to win the national championship. Even without Koa Pete, I still think and obviously they proved it tonight, even without Koa Pete, that they can go win a very physical basketball game on the road in Houston in the Big 12. So to me, you get Pete back, and hopefully he does come back soon. It seems like he is somewhat gearing towards that. get Pete back. I think Burries has the potential to go on a magical March Madness run. Point guard like Jaden Bradley, a guy off the bench like Dell'orso, the size that they have from Krenchenkov to Krivas to Awaka. I really like Tommy Lloyd as a coach. Fans are going to want to see him get over that hump, and I kind of understand that's why Franchilla said what he said, because he wants to see, because Arizona fans want to see a group like this get to the Final Four. And if this group doesn't get to the Final Four, I think it will be a catastrophe and a major problem in Tucson. Not saying Tommy Lloyd should be on the hot seat or fireable, but it just becomes really interesting that can this team with Tommy Lloyd as the coach get over that hump? This is the group that has his best group to do it, in my opinion. We've seen in a couple years. I like this Arizona team still. They should be a 1 seed. They should win the Big 12. They should be in the Final Four, and I'm going to have them cutting down the nets in Indianapolis when we get there. So, guys, please get in the comments. Let me know. The question we have posted is, should Arizona be favored to win the Natty? And again, don't call it an upset. Arizona is the best team in the country. They showed their teeth and showed why they can be so difficult to deal with tonight against Houston. Please hit like, hit subscribe to your name in the portal, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.